Good evening, everyone. It is the Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 edition of Douglas Now Live. I am Robert Preston Jr. We are live in the Douglas Now studios on West Walker Street in Douglas. You can tell here tonight my wardrobe is a little different than it typically is when we gather here for a few minutes. I am wearing my heated vest tonight. And I am doing so because a part of my soul froze over the weekend, and it has not yet thawed out. I forgot I had this heated vest until a few hours ago. I dug it up at home, and I have been wearing it ever since. I have another battery for it charging at the house. I am not 100% sure, but I may sleep in it. It was cold this weekend. I like it when it cools off. I like it when, when the edge of that heat gets taken off. But I like cool nights, cool mornings. I like for it to get on up a little bit in the afternoons. This stuff that we had starting late last week, I'm not made for it. All right. I'm too old. And when I say I basically stayed inside the whole weekend, I pretty well stayed inside the whole weekend. I didn't go outside for much of anything. And if we have another spell of weather like that between now and spring, I will be inside then as well. We're going to talk about a little bit about the weather here as we wrap up. We've been closing with the weather. I don't know what we're going to do, how we're going to close these moments that we spend together when the weather stabilizes, but it gives us something to talk about. Couple of stories here tonight I want to get to. Over the weekend, there was another shooting in Coffee County. This one took place on 158 East, just inside the Coffee County line. It was not very far away from Coffee County. The information that we have here comes from a Georgia Bureau of Investigation press release. Agents from the GBI arrested and charged 4 teens in connection with a shooting that took place early Sunday morning. When I say early Sunday morning, it was Saturday night, about 2 o'clock in the morning Sunday, but basically Saturday night. Brandon Camacho, age 20, of Coffee County, suffered serious injuries as a result of the shooting. Again, it took place on Sunday, February 1st. Deputies from the Coffee County Sheriff's Office responded to a reported shooting on Highway 158 just inside Coffee County. Camacho was driving a GMC Terrain, a dark gray GMC Terrain, traveling from Ware County around 2 a.m. when a silver Chevrolet Tahoe with a black brush guard approached his vehicle. Occupants from the Tahoe fired numerous shots into the Terrain, hitting Camacho. He was seriously injured and transported to Coffee Regional Medical Center for treatment. Those arrested are Clarisha Belmer, age 17, of Fitzgerald, charged with aggravated assault, aggravated battery, conspiracy to commit a crime of felony murder, and the offense of drive-by shooting. Anthony Ewing, age 18, also of Fitzgerald, charged with aggravated assault, aggravated battery, conspiracy to commit a crime of felony murder, and the offense of a drive-by shooting. Keyshawn Fluellen, I believe is how you say that, 19, of Fitzgerald, also charged aggravated assault, aggravated battery, conspiracy to commit a crime of felony murder, and drive-by shooting. Kavian Junius, age 17, of Waycross, also charged with the same charges. So none of the alleged shooters were from Coffee County. 1 from Waycross, 3 others from Fitzgerald. Coffee County Sheriff's Office requested the GBI investigate this incident, and of course agents responded to the scene, and Waycross Police Department, Ware County Sheriff's Office assisted. I certainly have some thoughts on these kinds of incidents. These are the individuals who were arrested. Again, all of them teenagers, very, very young. The oldest 19, 2 17-year-olds, and an 18-year-old. If Mr. Camacho were to pass away, we have not heard an update on his condition. I am assuming that he is recovering. But should he pass away, these 4 individuals will likely go to prison for the rest of their lives. If he does not, they're going to serve long prison sentences anyway. And we know what happens. It is unfortunate when someone, particularly someone young, gets in that system and gets into that cycle of incarceration. It's very difficult to break. It does get broken. People do it. So it is not completely unheard of, but it more often than not, it is a revolving door that leads to more trouble, more jail time, and what have you. And it's also scary. Individuals at this age, obviously intent on killing somebody. You know, the intent here was not to wound. The intent was to kill. Hence the charges of conspiracy to commit a crime of felony murder. So they were trying to kill Mr. Camacho. And I saw, you know, there were a lot of bad comments on the Douglas Now Facebook page. I did go through and take a lot of those out. All right, there are some community standards that we need to uphold. So there are some things that you can post on our page that will get you deleted. I try not to delete posts as much as possible, but there are times that I will, and I deleted a lot of posts yesterday. But there was one question that I did not delete because I think it's something that people need to talk about, and I think people need to understand. It's unpleasant. People don't like it. It makes people uncomfortable. But the question was, and it's still up. You can go take a look at it if you want to. The question was this a random shooting? Now, authorities haven't said this, not officially. They're not going to. But the answer is no. This was not a random shooting. None of these shootings that we've been having in our community are random. And if you track, if you were to start right now in February of 2026 and back it up, you're going to find a common thread that runs through all of these shootings going back to at least the summer of 2017. All right. We've had an ongoing conflict in our community. And every so often, that conflict manifests itself in a shooting. All right. And if you're familiar with some things that happened over the summer here in Coffee County, I think you can see that this was likely, allegedly connected to that. Okay. Again, when you are moving with the place of residence of at least one of the alleged shooters into Ware County, you should be able to figure out what this was about. So no, it was not a random shooting, and something that happens out, 20 miles out in the county at 2:00 in the morning is not random at all. All right. Now, things can happen that are cases of mistaken identity. That has happened in Coffee County in the past. But that doesn't mean it's random. And this, of course, was not a case of mistaken identity, and it was not a random shooting. All right. So our officers here in Coffee County, and not just here, but in surrounding counties, are fighting a very difficult battle here with the violence that we have. Because there's a pretty good number of wounds, gunshot wounds, and deceased individuals piling up if you go back about 9 years. All right. And it's pretty scary. And it's happening in our community and in other communities in our area with alarming regularity. So this is a scary incident on a number of levels, and I hate to see young people caught up in this. Right. But they are. And it doesn't seem to show any signs of waning. All right. It's not going away. It's getting worse. Now, if you ask me, how do we fix it? I don't know. I have some ideas, but they're not pleasant fixes. What I would like to do is I wish that as a community, we could look at those areas that have had similar problems, that have been able to make headway and been able to come up with solutions to help fix these types of issues. I know there are success stories out there. I would like to find those success stories and then study them and see what we can apply to our community to try to get rid of some of this stuff. Come up with a best practices, if you will. But these issues that result in these types of incidents are much, much larger than law enforcement. They're much, much larger than the education system. They go far beyond that. And there's got to be a fundamental shift in at the grassroots level in order for this stuff to happen. And what I've noticed and what I've seen over the years is people like to stand up and talk about this stuff. We need to end the violence. We need to do this. We need to do that. But when it comes time to really roll up your sleeves and make those hard decisions and address those very difficult, very sensitive topics about what it would take to stop the violence, people aren't willing to do it. So what happens? The violence continues. And you have young people losing their lives, either literally in these acts of violence or figuratively with 4 individuals here charged with violent crimes, all of whom are under the age of 20 and are going to end up in some shape, form, or fashion as adults in the Georgia Department of Correction system. And that's going to do nothing but lead to more problems down the road. So it's tragic. It's tragic all the way around. Another story, I just want to mention this. Our picture didn't really, I should have resized that photo. It doesn't show up very well, but the Airport Commission has a vacancy. Now, I'm not here to necessarily speak specifically about the Airport Commission, sort of a general discussion, if you will, about the importance of the various commissions and boards that we have in our community, city, county. There are a lot of them, all right? And I seem to remember, because I've been doing this a long time now, I'm an old man. I've been going to these city commission meetings and county commission meetings and what have you since I was about 22 or 23 years old, maybe even a little earlier than that. So it's been over 30 years that I've been going to these meetings. And the Airport Commission, the Planning Commission, Historic Preservation, Cemetery Committee, Recreation Commission, all of those and many more are extremely important to our community. And they need people on those boards. Now, the airport itself, if you don't fly, and what's interesting here, this is kind of a funny little shift in our community, is that, and I hate to use the term midlife crisis, but, when people reach a certain age and they finally have the time and the funds to do things that they've wanted to do, the activities in which they gravitate or to which they gravitate has shifted over the years. And I've noticed here lately, one of the things that people are doing, a lot of my friends are doing it, a lot of acquaintances are learning to fly. We have a very active aviation scene in our community. We have a really good airport, for one. And we are a community that has embraced aviation, and a lot of people are getting their pilot's licenses, all right? And they're buying planes together and sharing planes and doing things like that. But if you're not in that, you might not understand how important the airport is. But without an airport, we don't have the business and industry base that we have here in our community. And you may think, well, I don't fly. I'm not going to fly. What does it matter to me? If you have a job in this community, the airport matters to you, because a lot of executives, upper level management in the industries that we have fly in and out of here all the time. And I don't know if you pay attention, if you're over by any of the Douglas Square Shopping Center near the airport. You're sitting there at Chick-fil-A, you're looking out the window. You're at Longhorn, if you can see out the windows there, loading your groceries in Publix, even over at Walmart, if you're outside in the parking lot. If you hear an airplane, take a look. Take a look at the type of aircraft that come in and out of our airport. I don't know a lot about airplanes. I know a little bit. Some of my family members are kind of into airplanes and that, and I've heard them talk. So I'm a little bit familiar with it, but not a lot. But I know a nice plane when I see one. And there are a lot of nice planes that come in and out of our airport on a daily basis. The airport is extremely important to the economic development of our community, to the industrial base that we have, even if you never fly one. You never fly in one. And I flew on a helicopter out of there one time, took a little helicopter tour around several years ago, but I've never been on an airplane that's landed in or out of our airport. So, it's not something that I've done, but it's extremely important to everything that we do. But the Airport Commission needs a volunteer. There are other boards and committees that need volunteers from time to time. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, over the last 30 or so years of going to these meetings, there was a time when serving on one of these boards was something you wanted to do. The vacancies didn't last very long. We had good people who wanted to get involved, who understood the importance and the contribution that the importance of and the contributions that these boards and commissions make to our community. Again, whether it's the Planning Commission or, again, Recreation Commission, whatever, it's important. And you think about the Planning Commission. I don't know if you've paid attention to the county commission meetings here lately. And we've got some news to report out of the courthouse from yesterday's meeting. But there have been a lot of rezoning requests. There have been a lot of rezoning issues that have come up in the last couple of months. And one of the things that the county's dealing with, and the Planning Commission as well, dealing with the potential growth of commercial and industrial development on the Highway 32 West corridor. All right, now that it's 4-laned out there, all the way to the overhead bridge, you've got a lot of the property, particularly on the right side, if you're going west, on the right side, a lot of that property has some significant commercial value to it. And there are people moving in there, and there are people who live there. There are houses there. So it's a residential area, but it also has a strong commercial appeal. So what the county's having to do is to take a serious look at what they want to do and how they want to handle the future growth of that area. And the last couple of meetings, no doubt, there has been a clash between commercial interest and residential interest. Well, the Planning Commission has a lot to say with that, because if you pay attention to the meetings, one of the things that happens, and we write this in our stories, is that Jason Whidden, who is county code enforcement, he's the one who usually introduces these items to the commission. He will say, when he reads the proposed rezoning request, he'll say the Planning Commission has looked at this and they think X, staff thinks Y. And, the commission takes into account what the Planning Commission says and also what the county staff say, which is pretty much Jason. They take that into consideration when they ultimately vote. So the Planning Commission is an advisory commission. An advisory committee. The county and the city, for that matter, because they make recommendations to both, neither one are bound by what the Planning Commission does. But the Planning Commission takes its job very seriously. And most of the time, what the Planning Commission says, the city or the county is going to do, it happens rarely. I think the last time it happened was at the city level, but it happens very rarely that the city commission or the county commission go against what the Planning Commission says. So the Planning Commission is extremely important. Same thing happens here with the airport. It's an advisory committee, all right? And you've got people on there who have an interest in aviation. And if you don't have an interest in aviation when you get on here, you will when it's over with, because you're going to find out how important it is to our community. But they have the information. They're the experts. So they make the recommendation to the city commission. And most of the time, the city commission takes the recommendation, because you've got good people on these boards. But they're extremely important. And when these vacancies come up, they need to be filled. It's part, I think, of a community civic duty, because it protects the community. All right, you want to talk about how important zoning is. The stuff that happened out on the south end of the county with the chicken houses, people wanted to know why the county commission didn't get involved. County commission didn't get involved because the property was already zoned properly. All right. So zoning was not getting in the way. If it was zoned residential or something like that, then the county would have had to approve it. And the county could have stopped it right there. A case in point from just a few months ago, for the second time, a proposed asphalt plant came up before the county commission that was out 32 West on this corridor that we're talking about, but on the left-hand side of the road, out near the overhead bridge. It was voted down maybe in 2024, maybe August of 24. The developers tweaked it a little bit, changed the size of the track they wanted to rezone, brought it back before the county commission. There was some opposition from people who lived in the area, and it was not approved. So there will be no asphalt plant out there. But had that property been zoned commercial, the county would not have been able to stop it. I mean, they could have. They could always vote against it, but then there would be legal challenges and things like that. All right. So it would have gotten into, a pretty ugly process. But that's how all this stuff works together. All right. So the airport commission is extremely important to our community, because what happens at the airport, even though you don't notice it and you may not pay a lot of attention to it, goes a long way in what happens economically. And the same thing with the planning commission. Now, the planning commission does not have a vacancy that I know of, but I'm just using it as an example. People wonder how important this stuff is. It's extremely important, because planning is what, directs the growth and the direction of a community. And if you live out on 32 West right now, you know the clash that's happening. The last couple of county commission meetings have had a lot of rezoning requests on that corridor, and it's only going to get worse. I say get worse, it's only going to grow. All right. And those types of discussions are not going anywhere. So, coming back around to where we started, if you would like to get involved in the community, Airport Commission has a vacancy. Take a look at the story. It tells you what the qualifications are and how to throw your name in the hat. It will ultimately be approved by the city commission. So applying for it doesn't mean you get it. Depends on several different factors, but the city commission will ultimately decide that. One of the biggest stories that we have covered in a while, and it's going to only get bigger, I do believe, is the fact that we have a Coffee County resident who is embroiled in an international incident in Croatia by way of Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, we've done a couple of stories on this. I'm not going to rehash everything, but one of the things I wanted to mention here, this, of course, is Lovey McVeigh. This is an older booking photo that we have for some trouble that she has been in the past here in Coffee County. She is a Coffee County native, 49 years old, was living in Croatia, and has been in Croatia for about a year and a half. If you're not familiar with the Utah Doomsday Mom case, you need to look that up. I'm not going to rehash all of that. All right, what I simply want to say here is that this story is going to grow. It's not going anywhere. Right now, Miss McVeigh is a footnote in this story. But I believe as we peel back the layers and as investigators learn more and more about what happened, more about how, what fueled or facilitated Alicia Seymour to take her 4 children from Salt Lake City in November, allegedly forged documents to get them out of the country and end up ultimately in Croatia, I think you're going to find here that Miss McVeigh is not merely a footnote in the story, but is a much more central participant. All right. Now, this is based on a few factors, a few things that I see with regard to this case, and what is transpiring right now. Miss McVeigh is still in jail in Croatia on child endangerment charges. Her 13-year-old son was with her. He is in an orphanage. folks here in Douglas and elsewhere are working to try to get him home. He will ultimately get back here. It's a long process, as you can imagine, but he will get back here, and he's safe. An orphanage is never an ideal place to be, but he's safe and probably in a better position there than he was in the situation he'd been in for the last year and a half. Now, here's what I can't really get into this on Douglas Now because it takes too long to type and it can get convoluted and people don't like to read long stories. So, child endangerment. All right. The child endangerment charge is coming from partially, at least, the fact that that her son has not been in school. Now, she's had a brush with the law over there since she's been in Croatia. Again, been there for about a year and a half. She also adheres to some of the same doomsday apocalyptic beliefs, theories, however you want to describe them, as Miss Seymour did. And what they believe is that when the apocalypse hits Croatia, and the apocalypse is soon to come, Croatia is going to be a safe spot. So they're going to Croatia to not be harmed in the coming apocalypse. Her son has not been in school the whole time they've been there. A year and a half, 13 years old, has not been in school. She's already been in a little bit of trouble. He spent a couple of days in the same orphanage he's in now. So now we've got the situation with Miss Seymour and the fact that Miss McVeigh is back in the crosshairs, if you will, of Croatian authorities. Her son has not been in school, and her visa has expired. Okay, her visa has expired, so that's why she's in jail now. What's interesting, and the reason I think there's more to this story, that there's going to be a lot more to this story, is because neither one of those offenses, not having your child in school and an expired visa, are things for which you will get locked up in Croatia, as I understand it, talking to people who are familiar with this. Not having your child in school is a fine. If you're caught with an expired visa, they ship you home. They don't keep you. You don't hang out. You don't get to plead your case and protest and all that. You're found with an expired visa. You're put on a plane and you're shipped back home to the country you came from. The fact that they have not done that with her, and the fact that she has not been fined but remains in jail with child endangerment as the primary charge, to me and to a lot of other people, says that the Croatian authorities, along with authorities here in the United States, are really looking at what her alleged and potential involvement might be. That it's more, again, than just a side note to this, that, oh, Miss Seymour was living with an American family, and by the way, she didn't have her kid in school and had an expired visa. I think it's going to be more than that. If you're familiar with Miss McVeigh's track record here in Coffee County, some of the actions that Miss Seymour took to get her children out of the country undetected mirror, not the same circumstances, not for the same outcome, but mirror some of the things that she has allegedly done here in Coffee County. So I think there's going to be a lot more to this story, and there are more outlets that are starting to pick it up. There are folks who have more resources than we do. I called the American Embassy in the capital of Croatia on Friday. You know, I haven't made an international phone call since I was 17 years old. I had to look up online how to do it. And then Verizon, when you do something unusual like that, Verizon lets you know. So a few minutes later, I get a message from Heather. Why do we have an international charge? Why did I get a note about an international charge? I had to call Croatia. I did not get anywhere, by the way. I had to send an email. I'm waiting on Croatia to get back with me on this. So there's going to be more information. And as larger outlets pick up this story, they're going to have more resources than we do. So I hope that I'll be able to talk to some folks, and maybe we'll get some lines of communication opened up here, and we can, we can release more information as we know it. But I think this is going to be a pretty big story. Okay, I think this is going to be a pretty big story. There's still family here in Coffee County. It's going to be bad. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of weirdness here. No, we're not necessarily talking about, you know, the standard, you know, evangelical Protestant, you know, end times theology here. You know, we're not talking about Jesus and the millennium and that kind of stuff. All right, this is some weirdness that often ends very, very badly, particularly when there are children involved. And that's been the primary concern, particularly with the Seymour children, with them leaving, because a lot of times, you know, those who abduct the children, parents, what have you, do really bad things to the kids in the name of protecting them from the bad stuff that's to come. So these things do not often end very well, and that's what had authorities here in the United States working so hard to try to find the Seymour children. And then when they found them, they found Miss McVeigh with another child, and there were 5 children involved, 5 children and 2 adults. So this is going to be a pretty big story. We're going to continue to follow it. And I do believe, at least from a local standpoint, we were the, you know, the first outlet to break that story. It's you know, it's taking some legs and running with it. But ultimately, what we want to make sure is that all the children are safe, and we will have more. We're in contact with folks. So, but this is a developing story. I hope you're not tired of it already, because it's not going to go away. And yes, Miss McVeigh does have a misdemeanor criminal trespass warrant that is active here in Coffee County. But Coffee County authorities are not interested in going to Croatia to bring her back on a misdemeanor warrant. So that warrant has zero effect on anything that's going on and will continue to go on in this investigation. If somehow she does end up in Coffee County when all this is said and done, she might find herself being arrested again on that warrant if it remains active. But that's not going to be a major or a motivating factor to go and get her and bring her back. And we posted the first story. Somebody said she got arrested for a misdemeanor warrant in Coffee. No, she did not get arrested in Croatia for a misdemeanor warrant in Coffee County. In addition to what she's facing over there, she also has an active warrant here that goes back, I believe, to 2022. But that warrant, again, we're talking about footnotes to this. That warrant is really nothing more than a footnote to the story. If anything, it gives me, you know, if I'm talking to somebody, they want to know why, you know, why do you want to know about this? Well, you know, she's got some warrants here in Coffee County. She's got something going on. So, you know, it gives me a little more skin in the game to talk to some of these folks at higher levels of law enforcement than we typically deal with. But it's really a non-factor in this. You know, that's the least of anybody's concerns. But again, pay attention, because I think this story is one of those things that's not going to go away. I think you're going to find out that she is more than just a footnote to this, that she's a central player in this and factors very prominently in what happened out in Salt Lake City. Allegedly, of course. Let's take a look at our tower cam. Once again, clear night tonight, going to be cold in the morning. I say cold, mid-30s. Balmy compared to what we had over the weekend, but it's supposed to rain tomorrow. So it's going to be one of those ugly, nasty, chilly, raw, late winter days. We've talked about this, I think, last Thursday. Don't like January and February, and days like tomorrow are the reason why. I think it's supposed to get up maybe into the mid-50s, but mid-50s with rain is cold and unpleasant and ugly and nasty, and I don't want to be out in it. I want to stay home, and I'm not going to be able to, but I don't want to get out in that trash. It's going to rain tomorrow. It'll move off. A 95% chance of rain is what my weather app said. It's supposed to start about 8 o'clock in the morning and rain all day long. All day long. supposed to rain. After that, we'll have cold mornings and warm afternoons. It's going to get up into the mid 60s later in the week, and through the weekend it'll be mid 30s, mid to high 30s through that time period as well. I think we got one day where the low temperature said it was going to be around 31. So again, it'll get a little more pleasant after tomorrow, but Wednesday is not going to be fun if the forecast holds up. So, but tonight it looks clear, a little bit of clouds there. And of course you can see the lights looking back to the southwest from our tower here. But yeah, it's going to be nasty. I don't like snow. I kind of wanted it to, the weather to give us some somewhat significant snowfall. If for no other reason, I wanted to show snow on the tower cam. So I'm not going to come up here tomorrow to show rain on the tower cam, though. There's nothing special about that. But tonight, clear skies, a little cool outside, but yeah, that's going to change here over the next few hours. So everybody stay safe tomorrow. It's going to be, raining, nasty. Everybody's grumpy. The weather's bad. Don't get in a hurry. Let's don't have any. We had a lot of car accidents yesterday. We had a lot of fires. Fire department was busy with brush fires and structure fires. And then also there were several significant traffic accidents. And there were at least two along the 221 corridor, one late yesterday afternoon near Rhinewood Apartments, and then one sort of mid-afternoon up by Beaver Creek, the old Beaver Creek golf course. Both of those bad accidents. Had traffic backed up really, really bad. Injuries and the whole bit. So that was on a clear day. Tomorrow it's going to be nasty and ugly. So let's everybody try to stay safe, and maybe we can get through tomorrow unscathed and meet again on Thursday. Those are our top stories for Tuesday, February the 3rd. Everybody stay safe tomorrow. If there's some breaking news between now and Thursday, we'll be here. If not, we'll see you again on Thursday night. Everybody be safe.